Good afternoon. Yesterday we made the propeller for the windmill, as you can see, and we did it with the use of a paper pattern, so that is finished. Today we will start with making a bearing housing and the platform where the whole assembly will be mounted. This is the bearing housing, and this is the piece of a platform where the tail will be mounted on and the generator. It will be probably a piece of plywood, and I will glue the bearing housing on the piece of plywood. Then the propeller will be bolted. It will be bolted with this on this. This is a bolt. These are two bearings. These bearings are from the wheels of skillers. This is an overall skillers from my younger brother, and they were old and they never worked well. The bearings are in excellent. They are still in excellent shape, and they are meant for an 8mm shaft. So I took an 8mm shaft bolt with a threaded end and with this kind of head. In this case, for the generator, I will have to cut off the head. We will bolt the propeller to the threaded end, and we have to use thinner, not less thick nuts, or I might add some thread to it. And we have to make a housing for these two bearings, wooden housing. The wider the distance, the more the distance between the two bearings is, the better. It will be better. Try to make it as wide as possible, for then it won't wobble. The shorter the distance, the more chance it will wobble and it will wear out. Make the distance as big as possible. In this case, I will have to cut off the head, because I will connect it to this hand crank flashlight. This one, I already measured its voltage at a reasonable speed, produces about 3.5 to 4 volts. There are also other types which can at a medium speed produce 10 to 12 volts, and at a quick speed even 15. I measured this one, and it produces 15 volts. So that one could already charge a car battery. But I want to start trying this one first. I think I will. There is a reason for this. This one doesn't have the handle in the center of the circle, as you can see. And that is a problem, a big problem. Like that, I can't mount it to the bolt because it's not centered. And then I would have to make an adapter piece, take it apart, and then make an adapter piece which is bolted to this black circle. And that is why I just simply want to try first this one, as this one has the handle exactly in the center. And like this, it will be also a flexible connection, so they don't have to be the axle of the windmill has to be centered perfectly with the generator. It is flexible, and I will have to make it a way to hold this on a piece of plywood, which I will still saw, but it will be mounted then on a piece of, let's say that this would be a plywood, it would be mounted. So we will make mountings, and then you have the windmill. The windmill would be mounted here, the propeller, and at the other side you would have our generator. In this case, this is a small generator just for 2 batteries at a time. And what I wanted to say is the housing is the first thing we have to make, and the platform. So we will start with that now. So let's get started. One thing I should still note, that the axle should be at the same height of the circle center. Make sure that it's the same height. So when we are making the bearing housing, we have to take this in count. I already selected a piece of plywood, which I think would be suitable. I'm not completely sure. Looks okay. Yes, it's straight. It's Oregon plywood. You can see it well. Yes, it's Oregon. We will saw it with a fine blade, fine teeth. So we did one side. Still have to mark the other ones. How much we will give for the, how long will the bearing housing will be? I think well, it should be wide enough for the generator. That's one of the most important things. To be wide enough for the generator so that it can be clamped. So I'd say 10 centimeters wide is enough. 10. We'll make it 10 centimeters wide. So that's what we are going to do. We mark 10 centimeters. In this case I just use a pen since this assembly will be painted. As paint always is a better protection for wood than varnish when it's outside. When you have wood outside, I would prefer paint, and even would prefer oil above paint. It's just easier to oil something once in a while than having to sand something again and paint again. So I prefer oil. But in this case with the glue I wouldn't use oil, as it would delaminate. Many kinds of glues can't support, oil would be affected by, the oil would affect the glue. That's why I wouldn't use oil when you have something glued. Even epoxy can delaminate with oil, because they make gas tanks from epoxy with fiberglass, and after a while they delaminate as well, after years. Still takes years, of course. Okay, we will cut now the other side. We will cut at this side of the line. This is the piece we want to use. We will cut at this side of the line, and make sure that at the back you also are at you are sawing straight. So we are sawing now the other half. Okay. A piece of plywood for the bearing house and the generator to be mounted on. There's still one thing to be left to be done. Check if this is square, as it is not. So we will have to correct, even though it's not really necessary, but I like to do the things well. So we will do the same at the other end. And we will just cut off the axis. So, our platform is ready. Next step is that we will make the bearing housing. For the bearing house, I already selected this wood. Looks like tropical, or it might be walnut. I have no idea what it is, but it looks okay. So we will have to plane it, preferably with a long plane. I don't have the blade for the long plane ready, so I'll have to use my small block plane, but I believe it will work. As I showed you yesterday, we will do it again with the same system. That is by putting something which is thinner, like for example this piece of flooring, MDF, put it here and clamp it firmly to the workbench surface. So clamp is clamped, then we will plane. We plane these two sides. We check which directions of the grain. If the grain goes like this, the wood grain, you have to plane that way. If the grain goes like that, diagonally, you have to plane that way. In this case, grain goes a little bit like this, exaggeratedly, so we have to plane that way. Oh, too thick. Very finely adjust your blade. And this shouldn't be in the way neither. It's too much in the way. So we move it a little bit that way, so that it won't disturb our plane. Still too much. Now we do the other side. We're already playing this side. Beautiful wood, as you can see. Especially with some varnish, it will become very beautiful. It's sharp. Know that the blade is very sharp. Doesn't really wobble. It wobbles a little bit here. But that won't matter, because we're going to cut it in small pieces. And then it won't wobble anymore. It does wobble over the length slightly a little bit. That will not happen when I cut it in several pieces. Our width was 10 centimeters. The width of our base, 10 centimeters wide. So we will divide this piece into 4 pieces of 10 centimeters, because it's a little bit over, it's 43, so we can get 4 pieces of this wood, 4 of this piece of wood. So let's get started by doing that. So we do 90 degrees, that's okay. And then the next piece, we do it one at a time. We won't mark all, maybe one at a time. I might make a mistake, because we still have to make a kind of roof that was like a box which goes over it to protect it from the weather. So in that case, I'd say we will make that of plywood with real wood. So in that case, it would be a good thing if we leave some space around it so that it can fit perfectly over this. It will flip over, will slide over, so it will slide over alongside the bearing house and the holder for the generator. So in that case, how thick will I make the walls of that box that slides over? I think I might use, let me see what kind of plywood I have. For example, this plywood looks very nice. It looks like real plywood, no fake plywood. It looks like a decent plywood. That is 5 millimeters. It would be better if I have 10 millimeters, but I can't find any thicker material. So it seems we don't have. I might have some thicker plywood. Okay, we have plywood of 10 millimeters. So we will leave at each side of the bearing house 1 centimeter. So the bearing house shouldn't be 10 centimeters but 8 centimeters, so that we have a centimeter at each side. so that the plywood box can slide over it. It's perfect. I'm very happy. 10 millimeters is okay for the box, for the sides. Because we still need to make that box of plywood. You have to have enough contact for the glue to be able to have a good joint. And we might use even screws or nails and gluing it. It's okay. So we make them 8 centimeters. I correct myself. 8 centimeters. Square. We saw that. I'm making a big mistake. When you glue planks together, you should always leave them longer, and then at the end, cut them to exact size at the end. So I'm doing it wrong. We will correct ourselves and have to redo it. Well, that one is okay still, but then the rest we have to leave a little bit longer. So the rest we will make them 10. This would be more than enough for the bearing nose, but you can add an extra plank or not. It doesn't cost that much. You can add an extra plank. Okay, before gluing these pieces, we have to remove these splintering ends by sanding it that way, just a little bit. Don't overdo the job. Don't overdo it. Just a little bit. This is to avoid any pieces to become between the planks and gluing. Okay, we're all done. The only thing left now is to glue them together more or less, that they would fit. I think those three are enough. This fourth one we don't need. Later, after the glue is dried, we have to plane it perpendicular. Those 1, 2, 3 sides, this side, the bottom, and that one have to be perpendicular exactly. As we are going to lay it then in the drill press and to drill in the side a pilot hole, and then with a speed drill bigger hole, so that the bearing can find its house. Now we will just glue them together. Don't don't use too much glue. There's no need for that. In this case, I use a white, good quality white glue, which is they say it's watertight. It can resist water. Of course, it won't resist. The glue will, of course, delaminate. It will delaminate when you put it in the water for a long while, I think. But as we are going to make this little roof, this little box over the whole assembly, I don't think it will delaminate. As this is a water resists glue, as they say. If you want to be sure, use polyurethane glue or epoxy, or use a massive piece of wood. The only disadvantage of massive wood is that it might warp over time. It's better always to laminate wood, as it won't warp anymore. Can't, or not that much. So we will glue it. We will apply the glue, and we will clamp it and leave it for like that for some hours. And then still we need to wait like 24 hours before we start planing the wood. So cover again your glue pot and leave it without the lid. And then we clamp the three pieces together. In this case, I will just use this bench vise. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe I just will get 2 clamps. Why not? With 2 clamps, let me think. We did the bearing house. The next step is, of course, to cut off the hat and make a slot into the hat, to the shaft. We make a slot, and like that we can let this handle. We will cut off this, and this handle will go in the slot, and there will be a security pin then going inside. But before we have to cut off, I might show that in another video, as my time is up almost. So I will clamp this just together in the bench vise. Leave it for some hours before we would continue with something else. The biggest problem with bench vise, when you clamp something, is that you risk it to start to slide, to start to move. Your work will move. I can show you. I don't think you will see it on the video. If you want to avoid it from sliding, you should drill some holes. Put some clamps on it dry, without glue. Drill 2 holes at the ends and insert dowels, and then it won't slide. But as I'm going to still plane it, it may move a little bit to work, not too much. I don't care too much about it. We still have to shape it to the exact sizes, required sizes. This looks okay to me. Yeah, we will leave it like this, clamped, and tomorrow we will plane it. perpendicular. And that's about it. We already have made the bearing housing roughly. We still have to plane it, and then we made a base. And then we still have to find a way to clamp our little hand crank generator into place. And then we have to align the center of this hand crank to the shaft. We have to align it to the shaft of the propeller. And, it should be at the same height, of course. And then we will be ready to mount the tail and to find a way that it will turn with the wind, always in the direction of the wind. That's our goal. I hope I inspire you. Thanks for watching. And of course I wish you a lot of success with your projects.